back to identity, for American, and then as a Christian American, it's good sanctification, good spirituality to say I need to die to myself. But then if I say, well, and if we're a Christian nation, then we should also die to ourselves. Mm-hmm. If you say that, you can say individually as a Christian, die to yourself. But when you say that as a group, all of a sudden you're a communist. And why wouldn't that posture of open arms and humility as our first response of a third way be so anti? And how can we both live that and have two different things coming out of our mouth?
It's a very, very difficult challenge, that one. But I feel if our people begin to behave, the clientele, the voters, begin to behave on these issues, it might have different effect, because at this stage it's not happening. Go back to this Abrahamic faiths and Jewish, Christian, Muslim relationships. I must say, right from the word go, what haven't we done to the Jews in Europe? I must say, their books have been written and I can speak for hours on that, culminating in Hitler. Of course, the other day someone said, "Oh, Bishop, do you think Hitler was Christian?" I sat at the feet of one of the big bishops in the Church of England, and we had a month's educational course at St. George's Chapel, Windsor, which is Queen's weekend place. And he reminded us by saying, never forget that it wasn't Hitler. It was your Sunday school teachers who gave him that message, Jews, the Jesus killers. For 2,000 years, that is what Jews went through in the civilized Europe of civilization of that time. And for the first time at the Lambeth Conference, which is the assembly of the Anglican bishops from around the world every 10 years under the chair of the Archbishop of Canterbury, and the 2008 Lambeth Conference, for the first time in 200 years, we had a non-Christian speaker, plenary speaker, and that was Jonathan Sacks, the chief rabbi of, I think, Jews in Britain. Very popular figure in England, ecumenically and interfaith. And this is what he said, and I attended that. I listened to that with my own ears. My wife was there as well. There were 1,000 bishops plus their spouses. I still remember the words of my grandma. Hide the children, Christians are coming. And we are not talking 500 years ago. We are talking about Jonathan Sacks' mom, maybe 100 years ago or 75 years ago. And that was the worst moment of shame for us. My friends and I, we looked at each other. We were all gesturing, earth would open and it would swallow us. And today we suddenly become so holy, and we have never done this. Why are these so-and-so's Muslims are doing it? This has been the curse of our Abrahamic faiths. Competing, trying to undo the other, not learning. For once, we have not learned to live together, each following his path, under the hope, under the understanding, yes, we are Abrahamic faith. Our heritage is from Father Abraham. No, none of us. And we all want to outdo the other. And through wrong means, the Christians have played their part. And crusades were there. And now, why this eruption suddenly? as I see it, that eruption is because in the post-colonial period, during the colonial period, everything was controlled. There was Lawrence of Arabia's all over going around. In the post-colonial period, the eruption has taken place. World has shrunk. People have mobility. And in Islamic lands, the whole thing in post-colonial period, how did it start? It started with the Palestinian issue, the creation of Israel-Palestine issue. It's in my lifetime. I was born before 47 and 40. Pakistan, of course, was the first state on planet Earth which was, at least in our times or historical times, which was designated by a religion, a land for the Muslims. Other can come and go, but this is land for the Muslims. That's where the whole game started. And why did it start there? Because Israel had to be created, and for rightly or wrongly, but I feel European psyche had been so brutalized by what it had done to the Jews that finally they felt compelled, perhaps, yes, we must put it right, give them their land. And within less than a year after Pakistan, 48, Israel came into being. And that is then the beginning of, this tussle. And Osama bin Laden, main thing before 9/11, if you study his sayings, that was starting point. Then eventually leading on to, which is now culminating, West. I think the other way around. Christianity in the guise of the West want to annihilate and decimate Islam. As Netanyahu was saying the other way around, that Iran wants to annihilate Israel, the Jews. And that game. And their recruitment is, of course, the fundamentalist madrasa, Taliban type, the poor people who need resourcing, money, some career, plus the elite, the Western Muslim youth. It shocks people, but that's a reality. Because their impulse is, the clash of this religions or civilizations, whatever you like to call it. And that's why this fire is burning so furiously, because Muslims feel they must save it. And of course then there are internecine conflicts within Islam, as we have had within ourselves, Roman Catholic and Protestants. So they are now into that phase as well. So, plus, how can we save Islam? And that the only way to save it is by attacking, and by winning.
So when does it stop? Yeah.
Well, this is where I think somewhere sanity must prevail, and stop. It must, and it's we, the religious, must play the part. If we are all the time arguing, no, you are wrong, I'm right, okay. The judge of that is up there. I am not, I don't follow, I don't accept, I'm not a Muslim because I don't follow that path. It's very simple. A Jew is not a Christian because he doesn't follow my path. But so can we accept that and move on and live together, as perhaps off and on we have tried to do so. And this curse, which is primarily on the Abrahamic faith, it shames me. I must say, okay, there have been other skirmishes in other religions as well, Hindus and even Buddhists. The whole Vietnam issue was very much there. And of course, when Buddhism spread out, It all then spread out through missionary zeal. We always have a mixture there. But at least you don't hear these horrendous stories and experiences as they are happening to us in the Abrahamic faiths. And my plea, my prayer, my hope is, my cry is that we learn to live with each other, recognizing our differences, but celebrating our commonnesses. I must say, after 9/11, I was invited to do a paper at a hurriedly invited conference at Geneva World Council of Churches, our main Protestant body. And I wasn't perhaps the right person, but I was asked. And the things that I picked up, first we must identify our common humanity. And this was one of the complaints that Osama kept on making. I had some quotes from London Times, according to Osama, when he said those things. If you want, I can, in fact, take out my paper to do that. And then, within that, and perhaps I think it would be nice if I were to take that paper. Do you think I can do it? Yeah. I'm looking at our common humanity. I can quote one of the Persian sages, Muslim. He says, all people are members of the same body, created from the essence. If fate brings suffering to one member, the others cannot stay at rest. You who remain indifferent to the burden of pain of others do not deserve to be called human. That is poet Sadi from Shiraz in Iran.
I haven't heard that on the news.
Yeah, and then Osama said, according to the London Times of 15 November 2001, I think, after 9/11, the enemy will not forget the days when we were slaves under istiman, that is colonization. As they have always done, they want to subvert Islam and keep us as slaves. This is a conflict between good and evil. And then I go on to say, the religions need to help us understand afresh the nature of our common humanity and to take cognizance of where the political and economic systems of our shared humanity exploit and abuse human situations. The religions need to be both the voice of the oppressed and the conscience of the oppressor. And then second common that I feel we can celebrate is our common God. And here, of course, one can look at St. Paul, who says, we have one God, the Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. He didn't say that only for good Christians.
That's in the Bible?
That's in the Bible, yeah.
Fact check that.
Yeah.
Fact check that.
And this, again, this disturbs people. And I have had personal encounters over it. How dare you say that our God, whom we know through Jesus, and a Muslim God or a Hindu God are the same persons? And I say, yes, they are. It is the same person. It can be. We all therefore have our own glimpse of God. For me, of course, Christ is the prism through which I look at and approach this God. Yet, even as I do so, I can and must acknowledge something of the light that streams from other faiths as rays from a diamond. And with respect to those who hold different views to this, I do say that to deny the commonality of God is ultimately to deny God Himself. The day we find more than one God, then there is no God. You know, we insult Him when we say, oh no, there's a Muslim God and there's a Hindu God and all that stuff. And then I feel that if we seriously look at the common humanity issue and common God, whichever way we comprehend Him, that can lead us to common values. So far, our values are totally alien, and we look at the cheap things of the other. For example, Muslims or Easterners, oh, they treat their women badly, they do this, blah, 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 blah. Or Muslims, Easterners look at the West, oh, they are free for all sex people, nothing else. The goodness, the values, we never bother to look at.
Yeah, how can you not read John and see the sacredness space in everyone?
Exactly. So to pick it up, in spite of our differences, could still find a convergence point which we could use as a vehicle to meet our common challenges. We could share together the values which would enhance humanity and bring peace and justice into all situations. We need an appreciation that we have a common goal and that by sharing our value systems, we might reach our omega point, a global ethic. And if we have common values, even I dare to use a term called our common mission. And what is our common mission?
What is that and what is omega point?
Yeah, the challenge for such a common mission would have to be to face the issues which arise out of our common humanity and common values and our roots in common God. Is there any chance of working together for advocacy and mobilization on issues such as AIDS, environment, disarmament, poverty, international arms trade, etc., etc.? We can only take up these issues collectively if we have crossed the boundary and limitation of each one, in his own little huddle.
What do those have to do with salvation?
Well, everything it has to do with salvation. So, if more of us can really move on those lines and publicly move on, I think maybe God will have His purpose of healing fulfilled through us.